Who are we kidding? Welcome to the garden. I thought I would get a little artsy this evening in the garden because it's sort of, we finally got rain, which I am so happy about because this garden has been dry and I have been desperate to have a little help when it comes to watering the garden because it's been so dry. And it's rain and it's almost like this mist, and something about the gray misty evening, I can't explain it, but it feels like fall. And I know it's too soon, I know it's too early, but it feels like fall. And it kind of reminds me of, so I grew up in Michigan. I went to school in Michigan. I rode horses. I still ride horses. I rode horses all growing up. And I remember these fall evenings, going out into the pastures to get the horses. And it would be misting like this, and just kind of that just gray and the chill in the air, and that feeling of fall being right around the corner and just right there, but not there yet. And it feels like that tonight. Hopefully it's not quite into full fall yet, but I think we have plenty of time, but still it has this feeling. And it's like there's something, whenever the weather is like this and whenever it's misty like this, it just brings up so many memories to me of being a kid and going out into pastures and going to get horses, which is lovely. And so it always makes me happy whenever it's gray and misty. And I'm coming out tonight to do literally one of my favorite garden chores ever. And so it's a good night in the garden. Let's open the makeshift fence, which actually honestly has been working fairly well. It's pretty easy to deal with. Just lay this down. This is the subject tonight. I should really tidy up. Go a quick tidy up and open up the umbrella. It looks so much better. So this is what we're working on tonight, the topiary forms here. They're honestly holding their shape super well, but I don't want them to get too overgrown. I just want to keep an eye on it. You have to be a little careful as far as the temperature goes, and making sure you're not putting too much stress on the plant. But I think just a really light trim will be nice, and just kind of shape them up a little bit. I do have a couple other little green mountain boxwoods, which that one I fully repotted, and this guy I need to put some soil and just put him into this container because it's looking a little stressed. Let me make sure it's got some water. There's a frog in there. I've got these container ponds here, which are kind of handy when you just need to give something a little dunk. Give it some water. It's raining, but it's not. Yeah, I don't know how much rain is actually getting into the soil. Here is what I will say when it comes to trimming up topiaries like this. If you are new to it, one of the benefits of doing this more often is that you don't run into having to reform the whole thing. I can follow the guidelines of this really easily. I'm just going to make sure this pot is level, obviously. And then I'm going to use these kind of clippers, whatever the proper name of these are, rather than the little hand clippers. I feel like when you have a big space like this, I have found it's easier to do this in bigger kind of clumps. And you just follow kind of the line, I'm not an expert at this, so there's probably someone watching who's really knows how to trim topiaries, but this is how I do it. It works. And I find that as long as I don't wait too long, it's really not too bad. It's when you wait too long to trim them, and then you're having to make big decisions or cut into too woody of stalks that you start to run into problems, and it starts to be harder. It's amazing too, how much, it didn't even look that bad, but how much better does this look now? So we've got a couple days of cool temperature, some light mist and rain. The super hot heat is gone, and so it's a good time to trim them. The plants shouldn't be too stressed. I was definitely reminded this week of why you do need to pay attention to your weather. If you saw my last video, I transplanted those roses and I'm so mad at myself. I'll see if I can get over there and show them to you. They shocked terribly. I didn't get enough root system, which again, like, I know better, but I felt like I had a time to go ahead and tackle the project, so I did. And then I ended up doing it on, a fairly hot day. And then I watered it morning and night twice a day, so did everything I possibly could for it. But I'm not sure it's going to make it. It totally shocked. So there we go. How nice does that look? It's not perfect, but we just got it shaped up roughly. I just loved trimming topiaries. I always think that's so fun. All right, so I got the other topiary all done. And while I'm in the midst of these like big garden-y chores, I'm also gonna go ahead, I finally remembered my twine, and I'm gonna cut this, or not cut, I'm gonna cut the twine, but I'm gonna go ahead and tie this tomato plant up. The one thing I did not bring out with me tonight that I really should bring out with me is a little bit of fertilizer. You can kind of see the color of this tomato. It's like losing a little bit of its really true green luster, and that is because technically these beds are containers. They're not connected down to the soil, mostly because our soil is just terrible. And I don't know, I like containers and I liked the look of these, and I thought they'd be fun to do some container gardening still. So what I need to come out and do is a water soluble fertilizer on these tomato plants. And usually with my containers, I do that once a week. I've just like, I don't know, I've kind of fallen off with fertilizing back here, but it's something I just need to get my head around and like get on a schedule with. And that's just, let's see, what is even happening? I kind of have not been keeping up. I have not been keeping up on tying up this Juliet tomato plant. But it hasn't seemed to mind terribly much. We're also getting to the end of the season, so I will say that like I do need to fertilize it, and the Juliet tomatoes do handle all the heat and humidity of our Virginia summers shockingly well. But we are getting to the end of tomato season. It tends to get pretty hot out, and then most people's tomato plants tend to start flagging once you get into the real extreme heat. Oh no, I lost a green fruit. Oh, you have to be so careful. That is always my problem. I damage my plants. I'm always kind of like trying to remind myself to be careful enough. So I just tie them loosely with twine onto the trellis form. And I love the twine because I know I've probably said this a million times if you've been around here for a while, but it just decomposes, so you don't have to worry about it. Whenever I find like plant tags in the garden, anything like plastic like that, it's just another thing you have to remember to pick up and get out of the garden. And with the twine, it's so nice. It falls in the garden. If you rip out your plants, you can just throw the whole thing in the compost heap. You don't have to worry about trying to pull out any, non-compostable material, which I like. So now I'm going to do that, removing of the lower leaves, which I haven't done much of on this plant. It's actually been super healthy, and it's just like been doing really well in the garden bed. So I haven't done a lot of like cleanup, but a lot of people, especially in like southern growing climates like mine, you have to remove the bottom leaves of your tomato plants because they tend to get diseases. It's one of the reasons I like the Juliet variety, is that they really don't get many diseases. Now I'm also going to pull out this Gloriosa daisy, and I want you guys to remind me next July, when I see all the Gloriosa daisies and I'm like, oh, they look so pretty, I want to get some Gloriosa daisies in the garden. remind me not to, because I always think they're just going to keep growing, and I think they're going to be like a normal Rudbeckia. And maybe it's just me, but every time I get a Gloriosa daisy, I do believe they are supposed to be an annual, and for me, they like immediately die. Every Gloriosa daisy I've had has done this, where it just then like dies for no reason. So I gotta pull that out. I'm gonna try to weave some of this through without breaking it, if I can. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. There's some dead leaves in here, so there's been a little bit of dieback on its own, but it's doing really well. And look, there's so many tomatoes on this plant, and literally my daughter came out here like 2 days ago and harvested a bunch of tomatoes off of it, so it's really ripening the tomatoes fast. Okay, so we're gonna get the Gloriosa daisy out. I'm just gonna go in, I'm gonna cut it off at the base. And see, this is why I like the twine, because then you don't have like this thing, like you now have to remember to bring plant tag in. I need to find maybe like wooden plant tags. I need to figure out for my seedlings next year that I start myself. I need to figure out a system of something else that I can do to label, so I don't have to have even my own plant tags that I make in the garden beds, because it's just too much. I don't know if I'm gonna have Gloriosa daisies volunteering in this bed if I do this, but I am trying to do a little bit of the chop and drop method. I did throw some of those tomato leaves just over in another bed that I'm trying to fill all my raised beds, but they don't look super diseased or anything. They just kind of look old and tired. So we'll do the chop and drop. I also have this really pretty Biden's plant that I don't know why it did not do well in here. Maybe it's getting shaded out by the tomato, but I'm gonna go ahead and just cut back a lot of that. I'm at the point with the garden too where I'm like, if you don't look great, you're out. We're done. We're ready for next year. Okay. Maybe it'll bloom some more. It looks a little bit like it got some spider mites or something. I should probably come out and spray this down with something. Oh, well. Okay. All right, that's that done. Look how nice and tidy those two look. And that looks so much better. Makes my heart happy. This little strawberry tomato is tempting. I need to get tomato cages next year. The pepperbeck here is not doing well. I don't think it's getting enough sun. Let's see. Okay. I don't think I'm ready to move all of those guys tonight. Although part of me wants to, but I'm kind of waiting until we get like a real rain so that the soil softens up a little bit, because the soil is still really hard packed. And I'm gonna go out and I'm actually gonna go water the rose bush. We can take a look at that. It's so sad. It's not looking good, but this looks nice. I'm happy. I'm actually like, look at this. Speaking of fall, the tulip tree is starting to shed its leaves. Oh my gosh. It's happening. I better close that for tonight. It's happening. Oh, fall is coming. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad I at least got those two bigger projects, not even big projects, but two projects that I wanted to. Now we're gonna head out into the kitchen garden. I have been in a progress of weeding. I'm gonna go ahead and put in, I did a little bit of weeding earlier today out in the kitchen garden. I'm gonna go throw in that footage because I kind of just like chatted through a little bit of what I was thinking with weeding in the garden beds out there. I'm in the process now of kind of like clearing out all of this, you know, all of the stuff, the weeds, and then also maybe some of the plants as we get going here. We're gonna start opening some space for the fall garden, so that's gonna be exciting. So I got some weeding done. I'll throw that footage in, and then we'll do a little bit more weeding out there and water the rows because, you know. All right, so got quite a lot of the crabgrass in here that's really long, but I've also got some melons. There's actually a couple sweet potatoes in this bed, and we'll see if I can get this all weeded out. I also have these beautiful cosmos. These are like, I think it's daylight. They're really stunning. I've really been enjoying them, and I definitely think like I want to do a lot of cosmos and all the zinnias in this area next year. These melons are pretty good. I got one and I was able to harvest it and eat some of it. I do feel like my timing with the melons is going to be like something I'm going to have to work on. I did harvest a watermelon. I have some of the Moon and Stars watermelon growing in the other part of the garden, and I harvested some of those, and I was definitely like over eager. They were not at all ready. So I'm gonna have to wait on, there's a couple other ones, but I just wanted to harvest it and see where it was at. I know that watermelons are sort of notoriously tricky to get the timing right on, and I definitely struggled a little bit with that, but it's kind of fun to have, you know, I don't know, melons out of your garden. That definitely feels like a real big old crop. This one, we'll see how many more. There's a few on here. The vines are starting to look like, you know, they're getting to the end of their season. We're definitely getting into that late season garden. Now my plan is to do quite a bit of chop and drop. Like when I take out these melon plants and everything, I'm going to do a lot of chop and drop, but I'm trying to kind of remove, I don't know, with all the grass, it's just something that has been such a challenge in the garden this year that any of the root systems or anything, I think I'm just going to remove most of it. Some of it I have like laid out and just let it dry out and then placed it back on top of the garden. But one thing I'm realizing is that any mulching or, you know, anything that I have in the soil, I want it to be like very finely chopped. I don't want to obviously have like huge long pieces of grass or fibrous anything. So if I do chop and drop, I need to be very dedicated that I'm actually chopping up the bits. And I feel like if I go in and chop up all this grass, the likelihood of me just kind of creating more weeds and more grass in this area, it's probably pretty high, right? Like by the time I do all that. So I'm going to go ahead and just take all this out. I might use it as like filler in the bottom. Uh-oh, did I get a melon? I might have gotten a melon. Oops. That's okay. Honestly, I'm like ready to move on a little bit. I might use this as filler in the base of one of my other garden beds, you know, in like just to kind of fill up the bottom of the raised bed, where then it's going to always be under a bunch of soil going forward, so it's not going to like cause weeds. But yeah, look at these plants. I definitely let this go way longer than I should have. It's one of the reasons that I usually like to plant my garden beds very densely, because you don't deal with half as many weeds if you've got other stuff growing. But, you know, first year garden problems. It's just been a little bit slow getting everything filled up, but that's okay. Just gonna get this as weeded as I can. I want to try to help that row. If I can make that row survive, I really want it to. So I'm going to try to water it. I don't think that this misty rain is cutting it. The soil looks, the plants look happy. but the soil looks really dry. So I know we got enough water to like wet down the sidewalk a few times. I kept checking it last night because I was like so thrilled to see that we were actually getting a little bit of a storm. But yeah, I just want to make sure if I can do the work now to get that rose, to help that rose survive, then I'll be really happy. You know, I might actually just trim it back because I've got the clippers out. That would probably be good. So here's the rose bush. You can barely see it. It is shocked so terribly. There's actually a clematis that's growing in there with it that looks good. A couple leaves on this rose bush look like they might have survived. So I'm just gonna trim back all the stuff that looks really dead, and we're just gonna water it again and just hope it can reflush. All right, so I only have the tiniest bit of hope for this plant because I can see like a couple of the leaves look like they're sort of doing something. I'm also, I think it's okay. It looks a little bit to me like maybe I have a sprout coming up from from the rootstock. But you know what? I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Oof. And I have this netting on here because this was gonna theoretically keep the deer away from this plant, but I should get this off anyways too, because this is just gonna be annoying. Let's see, we've got this branch here. It's got a couple leaves that look like they are still alive. And so does that branch. Okay, that looks good. Try to free it from the netting. I should bring out the scissors. They cut the net better. And then a few of these leaves. These branches. Yeah, maybe it's still got some life in it. I think anyways, just kind of cutting it down and letting it sort of focus on regenerating is probably the best policy. I mean, it's a big, robust climbing rose when it grows, so hopefully it has enough life force to make an effort. And there's a stillwater's clematis that is growing in and around through it, so which is probably ready to come out and put on its second fall show. And it seems to have survived. That one seems to have survived the move. All right, I haven't trimmed this rose bush at all, so it just needs its general pruning probably too. It was kind of in that garden bed, doing its thing. So there's actually some growth in here that's just like dead growth from its previous life. Okay. Here we go. The clematis out of this net. Ugh. The deer netting, bird netting, you know, all that netting stuff is handy. But I like it in the fence. I don't like it when things grow through it. It's very hard to get off of anything. And definitely need scissors. Okay, I'm gonna keep battling with this. You can barely see it because it's getting dark out, but it's got a shot now. I'm just gonna clean up this one too. It's got a little bit more. This is the Blue Moon Rose. The other one is a Princess Margarita. This one has a little bit more life in it, so I'm just gonna kind of clean it up a tiny bit. Well, now that I got those cleaned up, I have a little bit more hope. The garden is looking nice. So I got a few beds weeded over the last couple days. I don't think I'm gonna do any work on it tonight because I'm just starting to get tired. But it is starting to look really good. And I just have to decide where I wanna plant out all of the things that I have started inside. You know, if I wanna plant out those in here or try to do like a final, I don't think I'm gonna try to do like a final round of beans or anything. I think I'm just gonna go straight to the fall winter garden. But I gotta figure out, you know, what I want to put in these spaces. But it's all weeded here. We've got there's the melons you saw earlier. Yeah. It's amazing how much better the garden looks just being like weeded a little bit, tended a little bit. I enjoy it a lot, getting out and doing these little tasks. So it's really nice. It is getting very dark now, so I think I'm gonna head inside, but at least got a few chores done, kind of getting the garden starting to be something, and starting to get ready to turn over for fall, which is really, really crazy. This is the time of year where you have to kind of decide, like, do I want to leave summer things in, or should I pull them out and just plant in, the fall crops? And that's kind of like something, I don't know, kind of something I'm going to start weighing here. As I start, like I almost pulled out those melons. So I'm going to start weighing that as we go along here. But with the cooler temperatures, it also means I can keep, I'm going to plant in those other plants one of these days, and I'm going to move the other perennials that I've got in the back and start planting some things in, not on a super hot day. Learned my lesson. But as the weather cools down and before we get to our first frost, which for me is like Halloween time, October 31st, I'm going to try to start moving some stuff because I really want to work on this pollinator border around the outside, and getting those roses in there got me excited. I'm like, this is going to look so good. So I'll probably keep chipping away and putting a few plants in there. We'll just see how it goes. But anyways, I'm going to head inside before it gets too dark. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon.